Hey everybody, we're already on the 6th video, can you believe it? Personally, when I check back on what I've made so far, I'm convinced it's completely unwatchable, and I wouldn't blame anyone if they didn't watch it either. I don't think I have that ability to angle my videos in a way where they're just a lot more engaging to watch. Technically, maybe I could, but it's more effort than I'm willing to put in, and I'm really trying to keep these short and simple so I can really stay on this every week. If you guys didn't notice, last week's video came out a little late because I bit off a bigger chunk than I could chew. And that was because I had a thought brewing in my head all week last week, which made it into a good video at the end of the week. But this week, honestly, my head was a little more blank. I don't really know how I got to Saturday, honestly, but here we are. So today I'm going to explain 6 reasons why I decided to get into stenography, into this field in 2025. And to cut right to the chase, I'm not going to address the whole thing about AI today and can it take over our field? Is the field in danger? I'm going to leave that to another day because I think that's a big topic and I'd love to talk about that in more detail, and that deserves its own video. So I'm not going to go over that today, but here are 6 reasons that led me to pursue this profession now. So number 1 is that stenography is basically a trade skill. It's something that people need and something that not many people can do. And all you need to do to be qualified to do the work is to prove you have the certifications to do it. If you have the certifications, you get the jobs. Obviously assuming you're professional and all those other givens. But in between leaving my last job and coming to this decision on stenography, I found job applications to be very tiring and difficult. I didn't see a lot of success for the amount of effort I put in. It felt like an endless audition where I had to prove myself, I had to market myself, prove why I could be an asset to someone. And with the number of rejections I got, plus the number of people who just don't even reject you, it really started to hit my self-confidence. I didn't feel like I knew where to go from there on what was I doing wrong, or am I just not good enough, or is there something I'm missing in the application process? So it was really tiring to be applying for jobs. And that does seem to be a common struggle among my peers, and I know it's not really an option to say I'm not going to apply for jobs, but I found it very difficult. And to find a field where if you just have your certification, if you're good enough, if you have the skill, you're good enough. And I think that really appealed to me. Okay, number 2 is the job security and the high demand. And I know this sounds funny to anyone thinking about the impacts of AI. And I'll address that later, like I said. But every stenographer I've talked to talks about how much demand there is, and that's due to the rate of people graduating from stenography school not matching the rate of people who are retiring right now from 40+ year-long careers. The fact that I wouldn't have to worry about whether there will be work really comforted me, as well as the fact that people who have done this for a long time were happy doing it for such a long time. The next reason I chose stenography is that it plays to my strengths. They say that QWERTY typing doesn't really correlate to stenotyping, but I am confident in my QWERTY typing and I'm pretty fast, and I've pretty much always typed without looking. So that's something I know I can do. I'm also confident in making strange shapes with my fingers, so specifically from cello, bass, guitar, you have to do some crazy things with your hands that are just uncomfortable and terrible, and also with a lot of dexterity and strength in your fingers, which is something I know I can bring over to the steno machine. And a lot of the other traits needed for the profession, such as independence or self-organization, I think I'm pretty strong at. So overall, I also felt like it was a strengths and personality fit. The next reason is the potential for the structure of the workday. And a lot of my peers who are getting into this as well seem really attracted towards the flexibility side of it, and the idea that you could set your own schedule, work when and how much you want to, and that would be mostly as a freelance reporter. But I'm also attracted to the idea of an official reporter who works in a court and has like an 8 to 5, and you work at work, and when you go home, there's no more work, and that's kind of what I want for my workday. So the idea that you could do the grind job if you want, but there's also the regular workday, which is what I want to try next to see if it's for me, I think was one of my biggest priorities in looking for a new job. And it's a decently paying job as well. Depending on your experience and your certifications, you could go anywhere from a modest living to over 6 figures. And I'm pretty sure that's if you go for the grind. Okay, the next thing that really attracted me about this job is the idea that I could have work anywhere in the United States, and that there's even opportunities abroad. From what I understand so far, stenography doesn't have a market in every country of the world, but it really does in the US, which is lucky for me. And I think that it's really unique that, if I ever have to move somewhere, or if I want to move somewhere in the US, I could still do my same job in a different place. So in that sense, I wouldn't have to be tied down to a certain location because of my job or anything. and I could be free to move locations based on, for example, my family or anything like that. And the last reason I've got is the impact it can make. Personally, before I got into all of this, I didn't know much about courts at all. I didn't really have much interest in courts, and it is interesting to think that you could be involved in the administration of justice. But I think that even if I'm not particularly personally passionate about justice, the fact that I can just go to work and come home and have time for the things that I really want to do is my goal right now. And although from my current vantage point, I do think that going down the court route would be probably the best option for me, the idea that you could also do captioning and impact deaf people's lives or improve accessibility is also a mission that I am passionate about. So I love that I could help make impact there. And of course, the pipe dream, which I'm not sure how you get there, but if you caption for broadcast or for TV or sports, how fun is that? Alright, so that's the end of my list for today. And if you want to hear more about how I was so confident in the face of AI and all that discussion, that I will have a job and that it's worth pursuing and going to school for 2 years before even starting, then stay tuned because I'll talk about that in another video. I don't think it'll be the next one, but it'll come sometime. Alright, and to close out my week 6 recap, honestly this week was really flat for me. It was really similar to the last week, but unlike last week, which I had a speed increase to adjust to and enjoy, there was not much change this week from last week. We just added on some more sounds, which I already did know. There was initial and final J, there was initial and final X, and the other big focus this week was on contractions, which honestly, I didn't really like their system, so I tweaked a couple of things, but only on the list of contractions that they had so far. So I haven't completely smoothed out all the commonly used contractions quite yet. But otherwise, I just kind of got the practice done this week. It wasn't very interesting or nothing stood out to me. I had a huge energy dip, woo, down to Wednesday, and Wednesday was so bad. But then it picked up for no apparent reason again the rest of the week. Finished another week of chapters from my legal terms book. Woo! So I got 1 week left. I'm gonna show you guys these notes when I'm done. Oh my gosh. The amount of time I put in these notes. Anyways, yep, so not much of note this week. Got everything done. Alright, see you next time.